Hello, everyone, and a warm welcome to the final session of AVPN Virtual Conference 2020. This session, What's Next? An Action Plan Towards a Resilient Asia, will include some exciting announcements, followed by a few reflections on the past 5 days, as well as what this means as we look ahead to building a resilient world in the year ahead. I'm Ali Hollowell, Chief Strategy Officer at AVPN, and I'm honored to be closing out this fantastic week with all of you. Please note that this session will be recorded, and you'll be able to access the recording from the conference website. There will be no Q&A on this session, but we'll be bringing the entire AVPN team on in the end. So if you want to stick around and see all of the faces that made things happen behind the scenes this week, please stay with us. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Naina Sabharwal-Batra, Chairperson and CEO of AVPN, to kick off this closing session. Naina, over to you.
Thank you, Ali. Welcome everyone to the last session of the conference. To start this session, I would like to share a few thoughts with you. Our global community and leaders are now planning for a gradual recovery from this pandemic. But the realities are stark. We have lost more than 300,000 people to COVID-19, and Asia is facing an estimated loss of US $211 billion. Further, we can see an estimated 11 million people being pushed into poverty, which risks undoing years of progress on poverty reduction and a number of other social and environmental issues in the region. Despite all these facts, I'm convinced that we will all emerge from this period stronger, more flexible, and more connected. We have witnessed humanity coming together to support those most vulnerable. To support government efforts and the healthcare sector in Asia, our members have committed over US $10 billion to fight COVID-19. This is a testament to the collaborative power of the members of our network, that resources were pooled together so quickly and decisively. The crisis needs no greater proof that we are ready to collectively build a more resilient global community. One of the common themes throughout the conference has been collaboration. We had an entire day dedicated to this very topic. What is clear from our 5 days of discussion is that governments will not be able to meet the challenge of the next year alone. Today, as our last session, we have the honor of hearing from the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy of Indonesia. This is a timely conversation, as we have for the last 5 days spoken about the rapidly changing social investing landscape and the essential role of the social investment community in mobilizing capital, anchoring public-private collaboration, and catalyzing the growth of impact at scale. In Indonesia, the social investment ecosystem is growing swiftly. It has the largest impact investing market in ASEAN, the second largest donor percentage of population in the world, and a burgeoning sustainable finance market. With the Sustainable Development Goals firmly integrated into Indonesia's national development plans, where social and economic impact opportunities from industry, tourism, entrepreneurship are growing, our conference this year has uncovered multiple opportunities for social engagement, for social investment to be engaged in these areas. To start, I'm delighted to share with you all the remarks from His Excellency, Minister Wishnutama Kusbandio, Minister for Tourism and Creative Economy of Indonesia. Minister Wishnutama's remarks are pre-recorded as he could not join us live, but his words will be inspiring to kick off this session. May I invite my colleagues to begin the recording, please?
Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan, Salam Indonesia Maju. Good morning. Unfortunately, due to the conflicting schedules, I won't be able to give my remarks directly to you all. But instead, our Vice Minister, Angela Tanusudibyo, will give an overview of what our ministry has been doing so far on behalf of me. Before Vice Minister Mrs. Tanusudibio proceed, I would like to use this occasion to address several important points. Indonesia is a dynamic and diverse country. We are one of the most attractive markets in the world, with a population of 270 million people, hundreds of tourism sites, and a rich creative economy landscape. Currently, we are focusing on 5 super priority tourism destinations, such as Labuan Bajo, Mandalika, Borobudur, Danau Toba, and Likopang, alongside with Bali and our other famous tourism destination. The challenges we face today due to the pandemic, not only for Indonesia, but almost all countries in the world, is to rebuild the economy and the society according to new normal era. We strongly believe that every challenges comes with opportunities, and we can transform these challenges into huge opportunity through collaboration between government and private sectors. On the other hand, preparation are also needed in regards to post-vaccine era. As we speak, countries are doing their best to find a vaccine for COVID-19. When the vaccine is ready, we have to adjust our way of living again. Some might think it is too soon to prepare for post-vaccine era, but I think it is very important to prepare now. So when the time comes, we are all ready to embrace the opportunities. Last but not least, in this spirit of collaboration, we proudly announce that the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy Indonesia is going to host AVPN annual conference next year in Bali, June 2021. I hope that all of you have benefited greatly from this year's AVPN virtual conference, and I warmly welcome you to the AVPN 2021 annual conference in Bali, Indonesia. See you in Bali, and thank you.
As you have just heard from Minister Vishnutama, next year we look forward to hosting the AVPN 2021 conference in Bali from 14th to the 18th of June. We will be bringing together our powerful network of investors, media, and government partners from around the region in the heart of one of the most dynamic nations for social investing. We are delighted to bring AVPN 2021 to Indonesia, thanks to the exciting partnership forged with the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy. There is no better way to illustrate the collaboration between government and social investment to set 2021's AVPN conference on the right path. The 2021 event will of course look quite different than in years past, bringing in both physical and virtual elements. But what will certainly remain true is the spirit the gathering brings together as a wide array of social investors come together, all looking for opportunities to scale impact and take action for the future of our world. To continue our conversation with the ministry, we are so glad that Vice Minister Angela Tanusudibio of Tourism and Creative Economy of Indonesia is able to join us live today for an exciting dialogue. Vice Minister, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Naina, for having me today.
So, as mentioned now, more than ever is the time for bold solutions and strategic thinking around the long tail of this crisis, which will be far-reaching and continue to impact vulnerable communities across Asia. With such a big task ahead, what are some specific areas that Indonesia is focusing on, either in the country or in partnership with ASEAN as a whole, as we look ahead to the rebuilding and rejuvenation phase in the coming year?
Before I answer your question, Naina, I just want to say that it is very encouraging to have this kind of discussion and conference, especially we can address issues, but also to look forward and find ways to collaborate together for the betterment of the society. So I'm very honored to be here. And
Thank you.
to answer, thank you. And to answer your question, as of the 3rd of June, the government of Indonesia has prepared stimulus package worth of 677.2 trillion rupiah, or equivalent to approximately 47.76 billion US dollar for the National Economic Recovery Program 2020. Now, this budget aims to strengthen healthcare system and also direct more spending towards social protection to boost consumption, and also to provide incentives to rescue Indonesian businesses from bankruptcy and also workers from layoffs. Also, to support the acceleration of this recovery effort, the government right now is preparing health protocols to be implemented in all of the sectors as one of the prerequisites before the reopening stages. Now, as a part of our rebuilding efforts in tourism and creative industry, creative economy specifically, the ministry is refocusing on several key strategies, including quality tourism, sustainable development, infrastructure and connectivity enhancement, digitalization, and human resource development. Now, within the scope of ASEAN, the tourism ministers last gathered early April and agreed on 7 key points, which essentially about collaboration for a comprehensive response to mitigate and alleviate the impact of COVID-19, and also to implement clear policies and bolster confidence among travelers to Southeast Asia, and also to support the post-COVID-19 crisis recovery plan without undermining efforts to safeguard the public health. Finally, in the aftermath of the crisis, to effectively implement and manage sustainable and also inclusive tourism.
That is really interesting, and sustainable tourism, I think, is definitely the way to go.
Yes.
We need it now more than ever before. So, Angela, it's quite clear that as we enter a new world of public-private philanthropic partnerships, some things will change dramatically, but others will, remain the same. In the partnership space, what do you think will be the biggest change that we see as we move into a new normal? What do you think would be some unforeseen challenges to partnerships during the recovery phase?
Naina, I think it's quite apparent that the COVID-19 pandemic has forced a sudden economic shift from physical to digital.
Mm-hmm.
So in my personal opinion, the acceleration of digitalization is one of the biggest thing that we may see as we enter into new normal activities, including in the partnership space. Now, the usage of technology, the adoption of technology in the business practices and business communication is something that's unavoidable today, especially with the rising demand of automated processes and also less human contact practices. And actually, with this kind of advancement and technological adoption, businesses can have a good fighting chance to survive during this new normal, and they can tap into new possibilities. But the challenge remains for Indonesia is the distribution of internet access. And acknowledging this, the Indonesian government continues its program to equalize communication access and information technology to the outermost frontier and also to the disadvantaged region under the Ministry of Communication and Informatics. Now, the 2 other challenges that I see in terms of digitalization are the know-how or expertise and financial access. But I guess with the, especially for the SMEs in rural areas, but with today's financial innovation, such as the philanthropic investment, crowdfunding, PPPs, and all that, social entrepreneurship, I think those can be effective solutions to these issues.
Absolutely. I think we have learned over the last week firsthand how do we actually accelerate into the digital
Yes.
space. As a follow-up, I wanted to also ask you, how are Indonesian leaders specifically preparing for partnerships in the social impact space? You talked a little bit about digitalization, especially in the rural areas. Could you expand a little bit in terms of social impact?
Right. Well, in general, first of all, Indonesian leaders, I believe we are focusing on the stability of political climate. I think that's very important because it will lead to a stable business climate and a conducive investment space. But also, Indonesia is committed to the implementing SDGs by UNDP. How? By putting our best efforts into to mainstream the SDGs into our policies development and targets, including in the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy. In addition to that, the Ministry of Bappenas, National Development and Planning, actually has developed regulatory framework to establish SDGs financing hub to coordinate, facilitate, and align SDGs innovating financing. So I think that's very interesting, and that could assist and help and encourage new partnership in the social impact space.
Absolutely, and I'm really glad that AVPN is partnering with Bappenas on the SDG financing hub. So we're very excited about that partnership. So, during these last 5 days, we have gathered the largest group of social investors in Asia and also from across the world. We have had more than 7,000 registrations from more than 80 countries to explore social investing during the pandemic. And through the conference, we have spoken and shared many new learnings. I'd love to sort of get your views on how do we maintain the momentum behind this week's conference, and do you have some ideas how we could translate some of the amazing things that have come to fore into the real world?
Yeah, well, I believe there are a lot of amazing ideas, exchange of ideas during the 5 days conference, and well, to make those into reality, I mean, we need to continue to communicate. I think that's one of the key, and to not only this exchanging ideas, but also to put it into more in-depth and technical discussion, so we can plan it and we can well, basically make it into reality, because that's the main job, isn't it? So, but what I want to highlight also here is what I want to point out. Basically, the government truly supports and encourage all those, the provision of technical and financial support, right? Especially for our ministry is the development of sustainable and inclusive tourism and creative economy. And I think the government role here is to be an invisible hand, to regulate, to promote, and to endorse finance innovation in financial innovation that will have the maximum impact and obviously a positive long-term impact for the country. So we are very welcome to all of the ideas, and the way to go is to work hand in hand and to find the right plan and implement it.
No, absolutely, and I'm super excited, given what you've just shared about your ministry's plans, that the next AVPN conference will be in Bali in 2021. So could you tell us a little bit about how Indonesia is an exciting place to watch in the impact investing space? Because we are expecting to gather, from across the world, impact investors to come to Indonesia.
Yes, well, we're first of all, we are thrilled to have AVPN 2021 in Bali, Indonesia. I cannot emphasize that enough. And hopefully we can meet in a better circumstances, face to face. And we're looking forward to it. But yes, Indonesia is a very exciting and promising place for social impact investing, I think. And Why? Because Indonesia, first of all, like the minister said, we have a huge population with 260 million people, fourth largest in the world, and we have a bonus demographic, right? We're at a productive age. And Indonesia, we are culturally diverse nation, and we have abundance of natural resources. So we are, in terms of demography, in terms of assets, Indonesia is the right place to invest, especially in tourism and creative economy. Not because I'm the vice minister, but because of the supporting facts, right? Tourism itself, has been a national priority in terms of national economic development in Indonesia. I'll tell you why. Because Indonesia has the assets for tourism development, and Indonesia has the population to drive the sector. So we have big population to drive the sector. And because tourism itself is actually, tourism sector itself is actually a labor-intensive industry. So it's very good to develop it because it can create a large workforce distribution across the country. So that's a very important point. And tourism sector also has a large multiplier effect for various other sectors. So by investing in tourism, developing tourism, we can encourage growth into other sectors as well. And Indonesia tourism development also incorporate SDGs, which support to achieve goals 8, 12, and 14. Whereas the development will be inclusive to the local community and also promote gender equality and promote culture and nature responsibility. Now, aside from that, Indonesia is a very exciting place to invest because of the potential in creative economy. Why? Because it's driven by the young creative minds across the countries. We know that creative economy is driven by the people, and Indonesia has huge potential that hasn't been tapped into yet. So a lot of people said that creative economy in Indonesia is poised to grow into one of the world creative industry powerhouses. Why? Because Indonesia has high added value in terms of culturally and economically. And moreover, a recent study says that more than 55% of the workforce in creative economy in Indonesia is dominated by females. So that's a good one.
Very good one.
That's a good one. So in conclusion, tourism and creative economy sector in Indonesia offer endless possibilities, endless potential for investment. Yeah. Especially in the social impact space. And by investing in tourism and creative economy here, we will be able to accelerate the rebuilding efforts because of the multiplier effects, and also to continue to drive forward the region's SDGs together. Thank you.
Absolutely. And, for everyone who's listening, and I think we have more than 200 people online, whoever is listening, and, if you have an interest in developing ecotourism, you want to sort of look at gender, you want to look at youth, you want to look at livelihoods. All of these have just been covered so eloquently by the Vice Minister as an opportunity for social investment in Indonesia. You talked a little bit earlier about the role that Indonesia has been playing in ASEAN as well. And we have, of course, a large portion of our membership that does come from the ASEAN countries. So what role do you think social investors from around ASEAN can play to help catalyze and accelerate the rebuilding and rejuvenation efforts and continue to drive the SDGs forward? You talked a lot about, all these different SDGs that can be positively influenced by sort of investments in Indonesia. Is attracting sort of investors from ASEAN part of the plan as well?
Yeah, of course. I mean, in rebuilding, rejuvenating efforts, and achieving the SDGs, I think we need a lot of help, from all of potential investors, and we are more than welcome for ASEAN investors to come into Indonesia and to make an impact here in Indonesia.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Angela. Those remarks are actually have been really inspirational and very much in line with what we covered, in our conference and look at in terms of how do we kind of drive public-private partnership? How do we actually help achieve the SDGs? And more importantly, how do we work together to rebuild a new resurgent, economy? Um, Again, I want to thank you so much for your support and for, encouraging us to bring AVPN 2021 to Bali. You are a fabulous symbol of the new generation of the government voice in Asia, and more importantly, also of the female voice in Asia. And I'm really excited that you talked a lot about how tourism can really help with achieving gender outcomes, and AVPN is very, very committed to doing that, and we've just launched our new gender work and our gender platform as well. So would love to see how we can bring that as well to Bali in 2021. So thank you so much, Angela, for joining us today.
Thank you again for having me today, and
And
looking forward to see you next year, maybe, or sooner.
Yes,
Sooner,
absolutely.
Yes.
I hope so too. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Naina and Vice Minister Tana Sudibyo. I think I speak for the entire team when I say that we're all very excited to be going to Bali next year. And we wish we could be there sooner. And hopefully we will be. So thank you again. So Naina, we've made it. 5 days, jam-packed, 40 sessions, 156 speakers joining from all over the world. In the end, we had more than 7,000 delegates. I think the count was 7,450 across 103 markets. So we were braving some serious time differences. And I even heard about members that were joining from Australia and from the US at 1 and 3 o'clock in the morning. So it's really amazing to see that. And I don't know about your sessions, but in my sessions, we couldn't keep up with all the chats and the questions that were coming in. So it was amazing to see how engaged that audience was. So tell me, how are you feeling right now?
Exhausted, overwhelmed, and actually very humbled. Very, very humbled that so many people took out time to actually join our sessions. Very, very thankful for the amounts of questions that we got and the audience interaction in each and every panel. So I think I'm, in some senses, completely blown away.
Absolutely, me too. So, I mean, this all came together pretty last minute. I think we made the decision to go virtual in the middle of March. So it was a pretty crazy effort to shift what is our biggest in-person event into an online event in a matter of weeks. Any reflections on that journey?
Well, I think we must have been crazy, but as I say, I have the best team in the world. And, that could not be more true than over the last few months. Pulling this off with all of our team working remotely and learning an entirely new web platform in the matter of weeks, a couple of months was truly astonishing. But I also have to thank our members who ran with us and stepped up to participate in all the virtual sessions, the practice sessions, and fumbled through Adobe Connect with us while we learned. We had so many incredible speakers, and they were all great sports throughout the process. But Ali, ultimately, it also comes down to our partners. Our lead partners, Chandler Foundation, Stockholm Environment Institute, and Edan Prize Foundation, as well as our knowledge partners, Ford Foundation, Standard Chartered Bank, Sasakawa Peace Foundation, and WOCAN, and the many other impact partners, outreach partners, supporting partners. Your faith in AVPN and your partnership in this event, which allowed us to open up to such a wide audience for the first time ever, was a great signal to our sector of the importance of convenings like this, even if they are virtual, and of networks like AVPN that can help drive progress in turbulent times. I thank you. We all thank you for your support and leadership. Absolutely,
Naina. It's really incredible to see how everyone came together on this. So I know we're really ready to close our browsers and to pop some champagne, but I would like to take a few minutes to just reflect on the last 5 days. I think one of the things that's unique about this virtual conference is that a lot of people will join for a session here or there, and so we don't have as much of that overarching view of what's happening across the conference. But you have probably the best bird's eye view of all of those sessions and what was discussed and what themes are coming out. So can you talk to us a little bit about what you see as what people are going to be taking home with them?
Sure, Ali, I'd be happy to do that. So you're right, there were a number of themes that were covered over this past week. The first theme, I think, in my opinion, was intersectionality. I know it's a very big word, but basically what we are saying is that many of the challenges we face in the region, whether it is COVID or climate change or gender equality, they are all overlapping. And this is why systems change and understanding how all of these pieces interconnect is so critical, because we cannot solve one without solving the other. So that brings me to our second theme, collaboration. No surprise here, because this, as you know, is the entire backbone of AVPN's mission, connecting diverse groups of social investors so that they can amplify one another's efforts and not recreate the wheel. I heard a few people this week reference one of my favorite quotes. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. This has never been more true than in this current moment. And I hope that everyone who joined us from around the world, the more than 100 markets, will continue to engage with AVPN and with the organizations that they were introduced to during these last 5 days to find ways of working collectively so that we can all go far together.
Absolutely, Nana. And I think one of the things that really struck me was just the amount of different types of capital that we had joining us this week, and just how that continuum of capital seems to be growing and strengthening over time. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
So yes, I think it's a very important concept when we think about that continuum of capital, as we call it. It is important that as more and more organizations enter the space of investing for impact, we start to see how each form of capital has a role to play. Philanthropy and impact investment and impact investing, despite being a small part of the global capital markets, can tackle issues that don't have market solutions. They can take risks and they can build up these markets and organizations for other mainstream capital investors to join in. Yet this year, when we welcome the engagement of heavyweights like Standard Chartered Bank, Wellington Asset Management, Temasek, the Monetary Authority of Singapore, and even more, I was really inspired by the intentional commitment that is coming from mainstream capital and governments. These industry leaders across the board emphasize the opportunity and the imperative for collaboration across multiple risk and return profiles coming together to create impact while achieving competitive returns. I think even in the session just before this one, both RS Group and D3 Jubilee Partners talked just about that. How do you actually look at your entire portfolio across the continuum of capital?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So are there any other themes that you felt were present throughout, as some final thoughts here?
So I think, given that we are holding our virtual conference in the shadow of the pandemic, I think one thing that stuck out to me so strongly was that everyone said that when we are rebuilding, we need to put humanity at the center. It is no longer about our individual communities, our individual corporations, our individual roles as investors, as business people, as politicians. But it is about how do we do better for humanity as a whole? How do we rebuild a better, more inclusive, more equitable world? I think if we don't do this right now, we have only ourselves to blame. In my opinion, the pandemic has thrown up an enormous opportunity for us. As I said when I started this conference, it is time to smash the status quo. We are all social investors. It is upon each one of us to make sure that this world is a better place for humanity.
Definitely. Thank you, Naina. I think that's a really great place to close. And so in the spirit of having the delegates that have joined us over the past 5 days continue to come back and continue to engage with AVPN over the next year and longer, I just wanted to highlight a few things that they can do to achieve that. So the first, if we can go to the next slide, the first thing is our platforms. So we have now 4 thematic platforms that we've created: COVID-19, climate action, gender, and then also a health platform in India specifically. And this is just a really great place for our members to come together, to share what they're learning, what they're working on, to find investable opportunities, to find partners. So we really hope that people engage with us on those spaces. The other areas that I'd like to point out are our AVPN Academy. So we've just actually launched this. It's in a pilot phase, and we'd love to get people to go on, check out the first few classes that we have there, but also to think about how they might be able to partner with us to really build this out and make it into a way that we can share knowledge more broadly throughout the sector. And then we have our Social Enterprise Development Toolkit, which we actually launched last year, and it's been amazing to see how much that's been used and the growth of that over the last year. So we'd like to make sure that investors are still looking there to understand how they can best support social enterprises with capacity building and with other types of support. And for social enterprises as well, to think about how are they stacking up in terms of investment readiness. So we hope people will join us there. And then finally, we have our AVPN Constellations, which is the award that we launched this year to really focus on collaboration and really highlight the amazing work that our members are doing. So we're looking to grow this for sure next year. And I hope that everybody's already thinking about what collaborations they're working on or they're going to form with maybe the people they met throughout this week that you could share with us next year to be eligible for that award. So of course, I can't close any kind of an AVPN event without talking about the next time that we're all going to get together. So I'm thrilled to announce that the India Summit will be taking place in Gujarat in December, from the 8th to the 11th of December. And so we're all really looking forward to that. Hopefully we'll be able to be in person, but no doubt there will be a virtual element to that as well, so that more people can join us from around the region. And of course, as we've talked about in this session, we're thrilled to be then coming together in about a year from now in Bali to host the AVPN annual conference there with the support of the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy. So looking forward to all of that and engaging with all of you.
So before we end, Ali, I would like to invite the entire AVPN team to join us all online now in a very, very special virtual goodbye from our team that is currently present in 13 markets around the world. So we are going to attempt this technological miracle, if we can pull it off. So can we have our entire team join to say thank you and goodbye? And there they are.
Everybody waving, I love it.
Thank you to this whole team. And you know, we could not have pulled this off without them. And I, in partnership with the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy of Indonesia, will see you all in Bali for AVPN 2021. Goodbye, and thank you so much for making our first virtual conference a resounding success.